Then we cover the now and near future in perspective of current business opportunities and role requirements, what you need now and what you need when there is an existing instance of the ball built by somebody. So role definitions in the brief. Depending on the level of the ball, whether building it from scratch or using existing already built instance, it's good to recognize that you might need and you are going to need different roles. ADM described in our tech blog in Getting Started section clearly defines the roles of architect, designer and the developer. The important roles that are left when the ball instance is running with the decent user interface to interact with are the designer role and the modeler role that's responsible for defining the information models and the process models that happen in the software. It's a collaborational or overlapping role with the designer, but those are the ones that are needed constantly, even when the software itself is automated. So they are basically the ones that define what kind of functionality you want your fully end software to provide. Then about the modularity of the ball. All the elements within the ball, be it atoms, modules or instances, can be reused over and over again. They can also be shared within the same or across different ball instances should you allow to do so. And while the promise has been along in the industry, what makes it real is the aspect that we don't try to reuse binary compiled stuff. This is a technical term. Don't have to understand it necessarily. But when we talk about logical levels, every software is logically described the same regardless of if it's identical, if it's running on two different platforms. That's why it's actually very reusable if we keep it on logical level. New elements can be introduced to the existing instance for specific use with ease. No need to construct everything from scratch. It doesn't first look like that when the libraries are relatively empty and every software entering the ball has to be built fully. But they grow up pretty fast because there is only limited amount of ways to display, for instance, the date time, people's name, person's name, last name, first name, address, and suddenly we realize that there are only a handful of real-life meaningful data that needs to be presented once, and then it's suddenly reusable module. Especially when the new instance is needed for a specific group of users, while the main functionality can be reused from existing modules and atoms. Talking about small customizations, tiny twists of usability, while still keeping, when there is really no reason to change the base logic or base information model. The change can be, for instance, localization to different real-world languages with ease. So, for example, in this example, the new element is thrown instantly into the ball ecosystem when it's created. This is basically what happens when somebody creates a new module. It's very easy to register the existing ball, where it can be shared and reused for everyone. And if wished so, the newly written elements, or any elements, can have a price tag on them. Entrepreneurs and developers can enjoy making income within the ball ecosystem this way. This is particularly important when we remember that using the ball brings the information control to the end user, which means, taking a concrete example, is that suddenly the user starts to have something that's valuable for advertisers and markets. Google is currently making around $25 to $30 per year per user for analyzing their basically unstructured content for bit directed advertisement, and then it of course is favoring the user back, providing the free email services and the services to so that user still keeps the information in their systems. Now the valuation is there, or even more, when we start to consider that it's a completely semantical information, and you allow specifically it, you choose which providers or shops or other markets you allow to use and which kind of information of yours. You may, for instance, sell your shopping behavior but completely anonymized. So you are just providing the statistical information of your kind of person, but without that it can be linked personally to you. And you can still reach and get all the directed advertisements to you, but the shop still doesn't know it's your personalization or your real identity. And these kind of things are possible only if the user himself or herself give the consent to the shops to use his information. So overall, such ecosystem significantly brings down the cost for building any new customized service. Anyone can build one right away. And this is of course when we have the modules on the ball. But as shown previously, there is a very high probability that the modules start to appear there when companies start to take the benefit of automation and want to have the reusability between the organizations. So about the business cases, immediate big case that's currently available is that opportunities that are provided when the Aalto OIP instance is launched, and even during the development. So development parts of the instance and its possible future clones are available for anybody to enter their business or even build new business on top of the OIP instance. What it means simply is that there is some information modeling business based on business processes that can immediately benefit from the ball infrastructure that's been put up alongside with the open innovation platform. So it's simply a technical reusable structure that then can benefit and be applicable as is to any software that somebody else builds within the ball. So then there is incremental ADM cases that don't necessarily look like the ball as is. Of course, there are another the ball instance cases in addition to Aalto's one. Then there is Julk ICT cases for open data. We have had good discussions with the EHS Meta.fi that coordinates the public sector information models, or actually, well, tries to have a common way of terminology, and they are connected to the open data initiative by the Julk ICT overall. Any kind of advanced or and joined architectures would apply immediately also on Julk ICT. We have had already concrete interest by the Ministry of Finance of what we are doing, so the dialogue definitely continues on that way. Then there is again real case application lifecycle management. We built a scenario in cooperation with Microsoft for certain Julk ICT organization. It applies as is to any of them, controlling two major providers with no technical competency within the buying organization itself, but still staying in control of the technical implementation. Applies also on the private sector. Then cross-platform mobile and game development, it's a very fruitful case for the ADM, for the native targeting and performance critical aspects as the multi-platform deployment development, cross-platform development becomes implicit. Then worthwhile to mention is the embedded systems development control. We have an organization with whom we are working that's targeting already a solution for embedded software or hardware manufacturers, machinery manufacturers using embedded hardware and software running in it. It allows to enter big companies to retrieve the information from their machinery, for instance, elevator algorithms or diagnostics data in a very controlled and reusable manner. So it enables whole new kinds of information retrieval through any kind of monitoring system. Then there are some juicy kind of easy catch opportunities. We have a 3D CAD automation solutions already, full backend automation of real production scale CAD models. If we make the connection to what we can do with it, it's augmented reality and 3D printing are immediate outcomes from it. And we have a CAD professional partner that we've worked 4 years already with the CAD automation that's ready to jump on board for any of that kind of cases. So then about your business in the ecosystem that the ball enables. What service do you provide, and how does it fit in? How do you differentiate? And this actually applies very well to non-ICT as well, because the Open Innovation Platform is all about non-ICT, enabling people with no technical skills to provide software that's not the core essence, but the software will help automate the processes again of real life work. And then there is some businesses locate in specific layer of the ball or the ball instances. Then there are combination of infrastructure such as software library and usage such as information model. This actually applies to many current frameworks or libraries such as OpenStreetMap. But to summarize the locations where your business is located or can be located, above the ball services, basically all information management, user-centered design processes, they belong to this level. It means that they are applicable as is to any instance of the ball, be it completely open instance or a proprietary instance or subscription based. It means that if you build a value in business in that level, you can offer it to any ball instance running on. Then there are one level kind of below is the instance services, connection nodes, coordination of businesses and interests. And then in that level, of course, the integration services between the instances. This is the natural position of networking groups, such as entrepreneurship groups or some other groups focusing on some area that want to have their version and their prioritization in their ball and their control of way to control the user collaboration or that kind of thing. Then in the core requirement kind of thing is the below the ball services, which is the infrastructure. It can be seen in later on the game more on the hardware side, but also the core kind of software infrastructure, meaning that, for instance, the Aalto's instance is going to be deployed and developed against Windows Azure as a first version. It will take full benefit of Azure's distributed data structures and that kind of things. So that's effectively happening below the services. Now, if we start to look at wider scope, for instance, mobile communication, we have had discussions with, for instance, Ericsson, who's been interested in the ecosystem through the DivIT's cloud software program, and that's an example of business providing like network infrastructure, connectivity between mobile devices, where there is a certain level of things that are immediately applicable to providers who provide that hardware and really difficult to access to anybody else outside of providing the hardware solution there. And for the last part, for after all of this, the most value we see a lot of opportunities open for any interest group collaboration and coordination within the ball. So, for instance, embedded system specialists can have their own instance or their own coordination node even running on already existing instances of the ball. This is where we see that we don't want to take this position, but rather see the genuinely enthusiastic parties with their own agenda to locate their own interest groups and start leading them and being the early adopters, bringing the value to their business to be there first and guide their own expertise area as they see best fit. Foreseeable instances of the ball that we see that are likely to appear were Aalto OIP clones. This is unclear actually. If Aalto remains completely open, there is little reason to clone their full instance, but rather run within and with their instance. Basically, their focus is especially on cross-organizational collaboration, being centralized, being viewed through map view for geographical locations. Then there is Kaloom, which is very location based, shares much of the features of OIP, but basically Kaloom is one of the of our own making. It's Jeroen's. Then there are UBIM, that's a Universal Business Information Model from the Sebastian's business. Their instances, we likely see them to appear private in each instance for every organization that starts to use the UBIM at first. If it spreads out and when the user base gets larger, probably then not everybody needs their own instance. Then good hit would be Finnish software entrepreneurship instances for their own members, so that they can have trusted location, providing their reusability and looking after their desires and their hopes for modules. Then embedded software development instances and open source association instances are quite straightforward to appear. Don't know how many of those need to be. Could be that if there is a strong enough collaborational push, it's only one instance that serves the whole vertical of embedded software makers and whole vertical of open source associations. But of course, when they can be cross-integrated or cross-used, it doesn't matter so much. Then one concrete example of a real-world case. We just entered this to the Ideas project, Nokia's Ideas project, Innovate for People and for Planet challenge. It's for the crisis collaborational platform. I won't go into the deeper detail here, but we are preparing a material more than just the idea phase to propose to some crisis management institutes or players, such as, well, Red Cross comes to mind, but there's also this crisis management initiative running, I suppose, if I remember correctly, by Martti Ahtisaari and that kind of organizations. So what do you need for a new instance? Well, cloning existing is simple as is. It's already much easier than cloning or taking an open source project and trying to build that one. It can be very much automated once the priority is set that somebody needs it done. The automation is one-time deal for automate any kind of cloning. Of course, this needs that somebody has built the instance that you are about to clone. For fresh instance, for fresh technology platform or for new features of an instance, you still need the developers. You need the architects, and then you need the designers, or well, basically what you need for today's way of doing software, or in kind of way that our ADM structures it already. So architects, designers, and developers. And you can also add new technology platform, target platform, as a backdated. So you have an instance or ADM module stack, and you want later on add a new platform there. There you need the developers, but only for the tiny amount, because they only have to provide the automation generators for the new tech platform once. And of course it's again reusable. Basically, well, to summarize, if there is not existing one, it needs to be built. But because all the reusability applies, only the missing parts need to be built. And again, once. In this separate video demonstration, I will leave out now the current example of user-centered design to replace the use cases, because we got so clear interest of groups in the meeting that there is likely soon enough a real concrete implementation of that, and no longer an example of abstraction information flows. So we'll provide that one as a separate example. It's worthwhile to mention, and a reminder, that the incremental roadmap does exist. So everything you see here within the ball seems like a big change for your business and the way of doing. Well, it actually is quite big of a change, but it's a change for good. And the ADM itself justifies its use in the traditional software development side by side with it. So the relevant question strategy-wise to any company is that how do you differentiate your business now from the competition, and how do you differentiate it within the ball? That's something that is best to think beforehand, and then consider if you can take advantage of moving to the ball as an early adopter, possibly coordinating your own expertise before your competition enters there and starts to coordinate it from their perspective. Well, thank you for watching the video. We can be contacted, well, probably easiest through email. Overall coordination we put primarily on the LinkedIn open groups, the ball, the information ecosystem for the general instance-wide coordination. For Aalto concrete instance, we are using, or Aalto is using inclusive business group, and we are using it as well. Then there is ADM technology block. Word of warning, it's aimed to provide the technical details, technical examples of the thing. It's not very well structured. One challenge of being that to be structured, it would need to take a perspective of certain interest group, and with this wide area it's simply not possible. So basically it contains technical details and facts, and we strongly suggest that you start from the LinkedIn groups, because they provide the links to the blog material in a, well, easier to digest manner, and you are very welcome to ask any questions in the discussions or the links in the group to get better explanations over the blog. Okay,